Thanks everyone for joining me for another conversation with travelers, photographers, and I'm excited to chat with Shara. It's Shara, right?
Shara, actually.
Shara, see? And I didn't ask you that before we went live,
No
so.
worries, no worries. I always tell people it's like share a beer, cross off the beer.
Oh, Shara beer. I like that. That's cute. It's a pretty name.
Thank you. It's a
So,
combination of Clara and Sharon. So,
Clara and Sharon. I like it.
yes.
It's nice. So
My
you,
parents couldn't agree on a name, so that was the compromise.
oh, was it? So Colorado, have you always lived in Colorado?
Pretty close. My family moved here when I was like 4. So I grew up in a place called Niwot, which is a small town north of Boulder, a little ways. And then I went to college at CU in Boulder. And then I moved to Nederland, which is where I live now, which is about half hour west of Boulder. So yeah, pretty much all my life.
Colorado offers a lot of different scenics and things to photograph. So tell us what you love about Colorado now that you've been there for a while.
Um, well, honestly, as you point out, it's such a big state. There's so much to do. Even though, regrettably, I haven't explored as much as I would like to, just the fact that it is there in my backyard. We have obviously the Rocky Mountains that go right down the middle. So much to do there. And even within the Rocky Mountains, the southern mountains are quite a bit different from the northern mountains. Um, and there's just, skiing, hiking, nature, not so much in the way of cities. I mean, Denver's like an okay city, but and and then there's the eastern plains and the western slope, which are also completely different than the mountains. They have very different things to offer. So yeah, just the fact I can stay in my own state and it's probably, I don't know, maybe 8 hours across from you know
Yeah.
down and east to west. So there's a lot to do. And my own personal area, I absolutely love living in. There's so much to do. Every summer, so my husband and I, like, our kind of summertime hobby, I guess you could call it, is going out on all the 4x4 trails. We have a couple different
Um,
vehicles. We have a Gen 3 4Runner that we really love, and then this vehicle called a Pinsgauer. That's a old Austrian army vehicle. Anyway, we like to take those out. And we go, so that's what we do in the summers. And you would think that after we've done this for so many years, we know every trail, every little ruin. There's so many um old cabins because this was a
oh,
big mining area. So like Central City, which is just about a half hour south of us, and was originally the capital of Colorado back in the very, very old days. That area is known as the richest square mile on Earth because there's so many gold and silver
oh,
deposits.
wow.
This whole area was intensely mined in the mid to late 1800s and into the like early to mid 1900s. But the heyday was like the late 1800s. And there are so many ruins around here with the cabins and the mills and the head frames and I mean, and they, collapse more and more every year. So, we keep tabs on them. But even so, you would think that we know all of those things by now. Every year, like, we find more things and we find more
Really?
nooks and crannies. And just this year, we found a flower field. So our state flower is the blue columbine, which is a gorgeous flower.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Yeah, they're so like kind of exotic and so many parts to them and everything. Well, anyway, we've been to this place several times, but apparently never during early July. We went up there in early July this year, and it was fields. Like, I can't even tell you, there must have been like thousands of columbines in
Oh
these.
my gosh.
So even like things like that we discover every year, like something new, either a different part of year. So I love that about my area of Colorado. And I'm sure there's other areas, especially in the mountains, that are similar. I hear people talk about what all there is to do. So anyway, I just love that there's the diversity, so much nature, because that's kind of something I'm really into. And yeah, just so much to do.
Yeah, and have you had the luck this year? Because a lot of places have gotten to see the Northern Lights. There's been
So apparently, yes.
okay,
Although
good.
I personally, I missed out on the luck personally, but I had heard about it and I went out actually one of those nights to look because where I live, even my house, I've got pretty dark skies on the west side of our house. We can't see any of the city lights from Denver.
Oh,
I can
good.
only even see one other house at all from our property. So, it's pretty good for looking and stuff. So anyway, I went out on the night that everyone said, and I didn't really see anything. I thought, okay. Well, then the next day I get like on our local Facebook group, and all these people are posting pictures with the purples and the
I
green.
know.
I'm like, what in the heck? How did I not see this? But apparently, like you had to have kind of a long exposure on your cameras, and I didn't think to do that. So I personally didn't see them, but they did technically make their way down here.
Yeah, I know. It's been amazing this year for different places. I had a friend in Oklahoma and she was texting me
Wow.
that night because in Vegas we didn't have enough clear skies for me to make the effort to drive away from the lights. And
Yeah.
she was texting me pictures off of her iPhone of
Yeah,
purple and pink. And I'm like, Oklahoma, like, oh my
I
gosh,
know.
it really dipped low. I think that was like March or May. I'd have to look to see.
Yeah, it was something like that when I came, but Oklahoma, my goodness, that's really south.
I
Yeah.
know, but that's great that you're up in a place where you get the dark skies and can see.
So we do. So even from my house, I can see the Milky Way. We get so many people from the cities who like don't even really know the Milky Way. I
Yeah,
mean, they know like in their head or they've seen photos, but like they've never seen it. And it's so I feel very fortunate about that I can, we see all the stars. And in fact, in the summer, I take my camping cot and I sleep outside on our balcony.
I was just gonna say, I think in the summer in Colorado, just to be able to, or any place where you get the dark skies, it's such a treat almost to just be outside, just sit and observe, because it takes a little
It
bit for
is.
your eyes to adjust, and you realize like there's just so much in the sky to see at night that we miss living
Yeah.
close to cities.
Yeah, it's funny the comments that I've gotten from people who are just had no idea, like, what the sky looks like. But I love when I sleep out there, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I just wake up to the dark and all these pinpricks above me, and it's just so magical. And yeah, I remember one guy that we met, he lived in Athens, huge city.
Oh yeah.
Somehow we were talking about Mars, I don't remember, and we said, well, you know how it looks red in the sky. Or I don't know. In any case, he asked us, well, how do you know that Mars is red? I'm like, well, you can see it when it comes up in the sky. He's like,
Right.
you can see it when it comes up in the, what are you talking? He had no idea that we could even see Mars. And then the fact that we
Right.
could see the color, like this just rocked his world.
That is
But,
amazing.
yeah, so lots of good stuff up here. Camping. I used to go backpacking, but that's my body's not really doesn't agree to do that anymore. But that's another thing. If you like backcountry, backpacking and stuff, there's a lot of that up here, and that's a beautiful way to experience the stars or like the Perseid meteor showers are coming up
Oh,
this weekend.
right.
Like pretty much right now, tonight and tomorrow night. Which those are great. Can see those from our house, or you can even go into the mountains. So, yeah, there's a lot of special stuff about being here.
So talk about when you picked up the camera. When did you discover your love for photography?
Um, so I mean, really, that first started. So that would have been 2005. That's so long ago. But it just so that year, and all I had was a little point and shoot camera, but it was actually a really nice point and shoot camera. And I went to China by myself to do, well, I went to participate in a research project, like a volunteer research thing. And then I thought, okay, if I'm going to take the effort to go over there, I'm going to see more. So I took like some Mandarin Chinese lessons here so
Oh,
I could try
wow.
and communicate a little bit. And anyway, I traveled by myself for a while. a couple weeks in addition to that volunteer thing. So that was the first time where I was really on my own and I wanted to share with people so much all this amazing stuff I was seeing. So I was
Yeah.
just clicking, clicking, clicking. And then I discovered like I really actually liked to take the time to like compose a shot, you know, and like wait for people to get out of it. Because previously my husband had always been the photographer and he comes from a family of artists. So like
Okay.
all of them have this artistic eye and I kind of gained a little bit of one simply from watching him photograph things. Um, anyway, I just discovered I really enjoy that. So from then on, like even when my husband and I traveled together, I wanted my own camera now. So now
Yeah,
I got two
good.
cameras. And again, for a long time, it was just a point and shoot, but they were really high quality. I even placed in some photography competitions.
Oh,
Like
yay.
my husband and my mother-in-law encouraged me to enter, and so I did. So again, that kind of spurred me on, and then gradually I got just a consumer grade digital camera with a lens. And you know, it's just one of those things. Okay, well now I realize this is kind of crap. I want to move up to this. I
Yeah,
want to move
yeah,
up to that.
exactly.
And
It's
now I want a
true.
lens that does, I want a wide angle. Oh, now I want a macro. Oh, now I want a, you know, zoom and I want a bigger. And it's just one of those things that it's hard. I guess it's an addiction to some point. So now, yeah, I really love it. And I live in such a great place for photography with the flowers and just the scenery. And where I live, on my own property, we get tons of wildlife coming through,
Oh, wow.
moose and deer and bobcats and foxes, and we get bears, but I've only ever gotten a couple of pictures of bears. Um, we had a mountain lion this year, but only my game cam caught it. We have game cams up in the yard. I've never seen one with my own eyeballs, but
Yeah.
here. But but I love, you know, so I've got cameras by the doors, you know, in our house. So if I see something, I can quick grab it and run outside. And I will say the one other thing that I love about photography is that in general in life, I have a very hard time calming my brain down. Like it's just always a gajillion things, and no matter I can't do meditation. I can't, none of those things work for me. But photography is like a form of meditation, especially with like wildlife
Oh,
or
yeah.
really anything. But because I get so focused on, okay, I want to like, if it's architecture, okay, I want to do it like just this way. I'm going to try these ways, the light. If there's people, wait till the people go. And I'm just like, got my finger, you know, I'm like so focused, like
Yes.
waiting. And with wildlife, of course, I can sit there for half an hour with my finger on the shutter, just waiting for the animal to look at me the right way or to
Right.
interact
Yeah.
with something or whatever. Or flowers, you know, I'm always trying to get, okay, let's try this angle, let's try the blah, blah, blah. It's like a form of meditation for me. So even if the photos don't come out good, still just that process of actually photographing is like a really meditative process to me. So it's actually really
No, it's
mentally
really
beneficial.
it is true. People don't realize oftentimes, like, whether, and especially that waiting, sometimes you really have to, like, be set up and now you're just waiting. Like, you saw something in the bushes over there, and you
Right.
just have to wait. So
Come out, you
I
silly
know.
thing.
So there is a lot of sometimes just waiting and being patient that people don't realize goes into some of these photos, or like you said, moving it
Yeah,
around to
right. And I think a lot of people don't have the patience for that, you know, like they just want to snap the thing they see and then move on. But fortunately, I have a long attention span with that. So
So what kind of cameras are you using now?
I've always had Canon even from point and shoot days, so I've just stuck with it. So I have two what are they? 5D Mark III cameras and two 7D cameras, which are a little lower grade, but frankly, they do pretty good. The 5Ds, you know, have a bit higher resolution. I can't remember exactly what their pixels are, but anyway, and it's got some more like HDR features, which honestly I don't really use. So yeah, but they're good cameras. Um, and then I have my primary lens is a again Canon 70 to 200. The USM2 version. I just can't tell you how much I love that lens. It's my baby. I'm like, like wildfires, the one big
Oh,
danger we have to live with here. So there's many summers or many times where we have our fire bags basically packed at the door with our super essentials that if we have to leave like that, we grab those things
yeah.
at the front door. That lens is always in that box.
No, that's good. Yeah, it is. It's like the one camera and the one lens you need to take with you. Agreed.
Right. I don't want to live without. And those, for some odd reason, at least with our home insurance, those are things that you have to have riders on to insure. So
Oh,
if I lost it in a fire, that wouldn't count for reimbursement. I don't know how closely they would actually, like if you have to itemize everything that you're seeking
yeah.
reimbursement for. But in any case, it's also one of my larger financial investments. So like I don't want to lose it. Um, and then was it last year? I think just last year. So it'll focus really well, with flowers and stuff, but it has a minimum focus distance of 3.5 feet.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So,
Yeah.
so for flowers or insects or something, it's a little ridiculous because I'm like, oh, there's an insect, but I gotta back up 3.5 feet
Right,
before
right.
I can get it in the frame, which is kind of silly. So I finally got a macro. That's a Canon one fixed 100, and I love that thing. I've had so much fun with the wildflowers with that. And then I have just a typical wide angle. I have a couple wide angles, a 10 to 22 and a 17 to 35. Um, and I still have a 150 to 600 that I mostly just use like on
Oh,
Safari, but it broke.
oh no.
I don't really have. It broke the last time I was on a Safari and I thought I had it fixed, but I didn't try it out until this year. I wanted to try it out and I took this as another cool animal sighting that we saw on a 4x4 trail. We saw these bald eagles
Oh, wow.
had a nest on but it was kind of far away on the other side of this lake. So we're like, okay, let's come back tomorrow and see if they're there. I'm gonna bring my super zoom lens,
Yes.
all excited. I got my tripod, I got it all set up, and the autofocus didn't work at all. And they were too far away for me to be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
manual focus. If they were right there, I could manual focus, but no, I didn't. So I was like, oh man, and I can't really afford to fix that right now.
I
So
know the
I don't have
fixing
that, but
sometimes is expensive, and the sad part is Canon isn't always supporting even fixing the older camera bodies. Because I actually took a body, they had a place in LA, and I drove it there, and they're like, "Nope, sorry, we're not servicing those anymore." And I'm like, "Really?" So you got to find someone local, like somebody
yeah,
like cars, somebody that tinkers and knows cameras, and you
right.
dig it, open it up and fix it. So it's kind of, you know, that's
Yeah,
frustrating.
I don't. That's a good point. I don't even know. That Zoom happens to be a Tamron, the only non-Canon thing that I own, but it is quite old, so I don't even know if I were to take it in. That's a good point. But anyway, I can't afford it right now anyway. But for the most part, honestly, my 70 to 200, that thing does so well. And even if I get something that's just a dot in the corner, it still blows
Yes.
up, I'll crop in. So that's my go-to.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So what are some of your favorite seasons in Colorado? Because that's what I love about Colorado is it changes. Like every day can just be different sky, different things to see.
That's true. And that's another thing I will say that I really like about Colorado is the distinct seasons. Like sometimes I think, oh, then maybe it would be nice to live somewhere warmer. Oh, this is so nice. But I could never live like in Hawaii or something where there's no real season change. I mean, winter, especially where I live in the mountains, winter is very long and it can be pretty harsh. Um, but it's a season that I like
Yeah,
we
exactly.
go into. And I like snow. I don't really like shoveling snow. Actually, I don't really mind shoveling snow because it also is kind of a meditative thing. Like, oh, I'm just gonna shovel this one path. I'm like, okay, but I've already done that. I might as well just kind of widen it a little bit. And I'm like, oh, but then, there's just this one. So anyway, so then I end up out there for hours and doing this beautiful, pristine shoveling job. But then my back and my arms are
Oh
like, what
yeah.
did you just do? Why did you do this? Um, but I love the sight of snow and the sparkle snow, and especially so often the snowstorms here after it snows, the next day will be a clear blue sky and just that contrast. And the icicles, I love icicles because
Oh yeah.
so that's lovely. But it's not my favorite. I mean, I'm gonna have to go with summer and fall being my favorite seasons, but I do like winter. Spring, a lot of places in Colorado, I think spring is absolutely lovely. Where I live, spring lasts like 2 weeks max,
Oh
and
wow,
then
that's quick.
and then kind of go straight into summer. There's a lot of jokes about here about, first spring, second spring, false spring, pretend spring anyway. And so it just, it usually snows into June here, early
Oh
June.
wow, that's right.
It doesn't like stick at that point as it's warm enough, but our frost date is June 10th. And then usually we start getting snow again, late September, early October. Again, it's warm enough not to stick, but it just, it cools down. So really summer is very short, very frantic every year to get out and see the wildflowers.
Yes.
But when they come out, they're so profuse. There'll be so many kinds at the same time because they're like, oh my God, we only have 2 months to be out. We've all got to
Right.
be out at the same.
Yeah.
So I just really love that, especially the wildflowers. And then the autumn is really nice. We don't have the trees like the variety of trees like on the East Coast with all the reds and oranges and yellows and blah blah blah. We really just have the aspens primarily, which are golden mostly, and they'll turn orange. If they have a chance to stay on the trees long enough, they'll turn orange and maybe even a little bit red. But it's just, you see mountainsides, that are just covered, or you're driving down the lane with you know,
Yeah.
it's what we have, and it's pretty.
No, it's beautiful. And you've also got, like you said, all the little kind of mining ruins kind of sometimes
Mhm.
strewn about. So it's finding those places and kind of
Fine.
getting off the highways and get on the back
Yeah.
roads.
And this is a weird thing to say, but I used to think it was just me, but other people have made this comment too, that I really love our clouds. Like you mentioned clouds.
Yes.
For whatever reason, we get just really dynamic clouds that half the time I go out and I mean to take pictures of something else and I just take pictures of clouds because they're so compelling. So I don't know what makes them different here, but they're really nice. Um, yeah, and even if you don't have the vehicles or the experience to get out on the four-wheel drive roads, there's still a lot of stuff, that even the average person with a normal car. And, where I live, we're only an hour away from Rocky Mountain National Park, which is a huge tourist attraction. Um, that's where this elk behind
I
me
was
came.
just gonna ask where the elk was. And fall
Yeah.
is when they start to kind of come down. They're more active, aren't they, when the weather starts to change?
Right. So that's another good thing about fall is that's their rutting season. So they come down to the low meadows. There's a couple meadows in particular in Rocky Mountain. Yeah, where they all gather and they make their sounds and they, clash and they do whatever. So that's really nice for that as well. Um, but I will say, if anyone is wanting to go to Rocky Mountain National Park. They only put this in place a couple of years ago. Now there's a timed entry system. Like you can't just show up and go through. Um, so you have to go online. It's recreation.gov. It only costs $2, but it's a hassle kind of. So you have to get them either a month in advance or they save some for release the day before. So you don't always
Oh,
have to. But my experience, especially for the Bear Lake corridor, is you need to get on like right when they go on sale, which is 7 p.m. the night before. Like they just go like that.
that's
But
good. That's good to tell people because I think I wouldn't have picked that park as one that has the timed entry now. Some of,
yeah,
like I know some of the more what we think of as busy parks, but I think a lot of national parks are finding it's working to just kind of limit the number of people for the,
It
that.
is, and in all honesty, even though it really frustrates me because I used to just get up in the morning sometimes and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, it's a nice day. I don't have anything else to do today. I'm gonna go drive to Rocky Mountain," and I can't do that now. I can, so you can get in without a reservation to the portion of the park that goes over Trail Ridge Road after I think it's 3 p.m.
Oh, okay.
But before that, you need the timed entry. And if you want to go to the portion of the park where most of the hiking trails that people like to do are, you need the time entry up until I think it's 6 p.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of a bummer. But in all honesty, it really was just getting super, super overcrowded. And even sometimes now with the timed entry, if you go like in the middle of the day, you're still waiting in line to get through the entry gate for like 20 minutes
Oh,
sometimes.
wow.
Yeah, so I feel it is kind of necessary. It's unfortunate, it's frustrating, but I think it is best for the park itself, you know.
Yes. Oh, agreed. I'm kind of on the same thought process. I know it's frustrating for people. We got used to, like you said, especially when you live so close to a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful national park. It's like, especially as a photographer too, you might look and
I
be like,
know. I'm like, oh, conditions are perfect today.
right. I want to run. I just want to hop in my car and go. I mean, I have the same thing with Red Rock here near Las Vegas, and it's like
Yeah, yeah.
I realized I'm like, no, I can't just like wait until. So it's like, but $2, that's not bad, I guess, to reserve. But still, it's hard to know what it's going to be like the next day.
And right, and that's really frustrating too. Or if you try and get them, like the month ahead of time. And I'm sure that some people, and this is annoying, but I understand why they do it, will buy several days worth of entries knowing they're really probably only going to use one, which I I don't really think that's cool, but I understand why people do it. Yeah, and then the closest it's not a national park. I'm not sure what it is, but it's on the interagency pass. Anyway, it's called Brainerd Lake Recreation Area. It's about a half-hour drive for me to get to the trailheads. Anyway, it's beautiful. Has my favorite wildflower fields,
Oh,
like elephant
nice.
heads, which is I don't know where it's a high altitude flower. So they really only grow above 9,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
You can only see them somewhere in the mountains. And I don't know if there's other mountain ranges or just the Rocky Mountains. In any case, here you have to get up quite high, and then paintbrushes come in all kinds of colors up
Oh,
there. And there's just, anyway, it's absolutely gorgeous. But they also instituted the timed entry. So
did
I
they?
can't,
Oh,
because their parking lots are pretty small for some of the trailheads. That one only has like, I don't know, maybe 30 parking spaces
oh,
or something.
wow.
So, but it used to be I'd wake up 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh, the light's just right. It's kind of overcast. It's, the flowers are good.
Yes.
This is their prime. I'm just going to go up there. I can't do that now. That's like kind of a bummer. But I did get a couple passes. I did get up there a couple
Yay.
times this year. So it's good.
Yeah,
But
that is good. Yeah, it does make it challenging though for travelers too, because I know in the past sometimes people they look and see like, oh, the mountains or Colorado's reporting that the leaves are, it's now
mhm.
yellow, and so they'll get in their car or buy that inexpensive plane ticket. But if you can't get into Rocky Mountain, you're really gonna have to like look
Yeah.
at a
And
map.
there's yeah, and Mount Evans is the same way. And I don't really know. So yeah, that's just something I would say to your viewers is to research that kind of stuff, because my guess is probably only more parks and places are going to start doing that. I don't know, but yeah, that's something you want to look into before.
Yeah, check out. We might just have to be planning ahead more, less
Mhm.
spontaneous, or like I always say, get
Yeah.
a paper map out and look at maybe other scenic roads if that's your only time you can go. You
That's
know.
true. There could be alternate things to do, or like I say, for the time, if you just want to do Trail Ridge, which is gorgeous. I mean, I would encourage
Yeah.
anyone to do that as long as you're not afraid of sheer cliffs on the side of you driving up.
Yeah, it is kind of scary.
And that's another thing. I used to just drive up on a whim over Trail Ridge. There's a little visitor center with a cafe there. It's really nice to eat at, and I can't do that anymore. But I also developed like just one day, I got so scared of that road
Oh,
and the drop off, and I don't know why I don't, but I'm just like so white knuckled, and I'm like telling myself, you've driven this road, 50 times. There's nothing to be scared of. You know how to drive a car.
yeah.
Well, you know, and there's people with RVs and stuff, right? Which I can't even fathom doing that,
Oh,
but
I
it
know. I can't even fathom taking an RV up that road. No way.
no, wait, and if I see one coming towards me and I'm on the cliff side, I'm just like, because if there's no cars coming the other way, I totally drift into the middle of the
You're like,
road. I'm just
yeah,
like straddling the double yellow line,
right. Right.
get
It's like
away
I'm
from
just gonna take the middle. I know, I'm with you. No one's
them.
coming.
So I will just point that out if anyone is deathly afraid of heights and these sheer drop-offs, that maybe that route isn't for you, but it is gorgeous. It's like super gorgeous. I believe it's the highest through like continuous road in the United States. I'm not sure. I think the top elevation is like 12,000
Oh
something.
wow. Yeah.
And then Mount Evans, which unfortunately you also need a timed entry for now, is the highest paved road at 14,000 some feet, but it doesn't go all the way through. It just goes up to the top, and there's like a viewpoint there and lots of mountain goats. That area is known for
Oh,
goats,
that's neat.
if you
Yeah.
like mountain goats. But that's another place that's hard for me to, if I can get someone to drive me there, it's better because otherwise it's like really harrowing. But it is fun with the mountain goats.
Yeah, that is true. So tell us a little bit about Nederland. Is it, like, are there places for people to stop and eat? I always love discovering small towns that have quirky, like, cafes and arts and things. So tell us a
Mhm.
little bit more about your corner of Colorado.
So we actually are the only town with services between Estes Park and Central City,
Oh, wow.
which is a long stretch of highway. So there'll be like a restaurant, I think, in Ireland's Park, or just like one thing here and there, but we're the only like real town that has like real services. So even though our population is something like 1,800 people, we service more like 7 or 8,000 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So even though our town is like a few blocks long by a few blocks wide, we actually have tons of stuff for that small space. So I don't even know off the top of my head how many restaurants we have,
Oh,
but
wow.
there's an Indian restaurant that is run by a Nepalese family, which is really cool. The one lady, she moved here by herself
Oh, wow.
a couple decades ago, and she started her business in this teeny tiny little space. But she was so friendly, and she'd come up and personally talk to everybody, and made this great food. So then she was able to move into a larger space, and then she was able to start bringing over her family little by little from Nepal.
Oh,
So now
wow.
she's got this huge extended family. The whole family runs the restaurant, so it's really authentic food. It's like it's almost a destination restaurant. Like people come up from Boulder and stuff to eat there. So we have that. We have a Thai restaurant, which they also run, and we have two pizza places. We have like Mexican food. We have just your general like bar food. We have a barbecue, really nice barbecue place. We have, we're known, I think a lot of Colorado is, but especially like our area is known for our love of alcohol. So we have two microbreweries in our little town. We have a distillery just down the road. We
Oh,
have
cool.
a winery. Obviously, we don't grow grapes here, but she does the mixing and she sells the stuff here. So we have those places, which the one microbrewery doesn't serve food, but you can bring your own food. So you can like grab pizza upstairs, bring it down, and drink your beers, and everything's very friendly here. Dogs are allowed pretty much everywhere because there's higher dog population than people population in this town.
Oh, wow.
So they can go pretty much anywhere. Yeah, so really there's all kinds of restaurants here. So that's a plus. And we have a small grocery store that has all your basic needs. Of course, we have two liquor stores.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I don't know what it is sometimes about Colorado, but yeah, there's a lot of breweries and
Yeah, well, we won.
outdoors, you know.
And I think, Oregon, Washington State were kind of the real birth of the microbreweries, decades ago. And Colorado is pretty much on their heels. So most mountain towns will have one to, like, I don't even know how many Estes Park has, which is the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park, but they have a bunch. Anyway, so ours are yeah, really good, really. Oh, I'm sorry. We have three microbreweries. I totally
Three?
forgot. There's another one I never go to because I don't like their beers as much, but
Oh,
there's three. And there's a lot of live music, like a lot of the bars and breweries have live music, usually on the weekends, but sometimes in the weekdays. So they're just fun hangout spots. Yeah, we even have like a hardware store and I don't know, just all your basic stuff. So yeah, you won't have a problem finding a place to eat in Netherlands.
right. And also you have a place for people to stay.
I do. So in town, there's actually only one motel. It's a nice, well, I don't really know. I can't speak to the rooms that much. Many years ago, I was in them, but I don't know. But it's a nice location. It's right on the creek. So we have a creek that runs right through the middle of town. Other than that, you're pretty much limited to Airbnbs, and we don't have that many because there's a cap in town and
Oh,
there's
interesting. Yeah.
a lot of controversy in town about them. But I have one, which is just a small, it's part of my house. I mean, it's like a separate entrance space. It's a mother-in-law apartment that was literally built for the builder's mother-in-law.
That
So
makes sense. Yeah.
in a very real sense, a mother-in-law apartment. So it has like a little kitchenette, and a separate entrance and stuff. A lot of people call it the tree house because
Oh,
it's up on the second level and all you can see from the windows is trees. It's just forest. So it kind of feels like you're in a tree house, even though you're not really. So yes, my place is available. Cozy and quiet in Netherlands is what it's called.
cozy and quiet in Netherlands. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to include the link because I love
Yeah,
that. It's a unique. I like being able to stay in places that are small, that are boutique, and like you said, you're in a great location, so you can go lots of different places from where you're at.
yeah, there's lots of different places. Even our yard, like I say, we get a lot of wildlife. So sometimes people see really cool things in the yard. And I mean, obviously I can't guarantee that,
Right.
but but I think, our ratings. So I called it because, and by the way, I was the first Airbnb in our town.
Oh,
I
were
mean,
you? Yeah.
um, but anyway, I named it Cozy and Quiet, which I don't know, seemed a little silly, but I couldn't think of anything else. But so many of our reviews say, oh, it was so accurately named. Like it really was cozy and it really was quiet. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we offer. I mean, this is an older house. Oh, I need to mention one other thing about our town. Um, so we have, sounds silly, but it's called the Carousel of Happiness. And it was built by a guy, his name's Scott Harrison, and he was a POW in the Vietnam War. And during that time, kind of the way that he maintained his sanity basically is he had this vision of a merry-go-round in a meadow that would like go and it just sort of like calmed him. And I don't think he'd ever seen such a thing before. So, but for whatever reason, he had that. So after the war, and he moved up here, he built this house that we live in now for his family. And then he started carving animals for this carousel. He didn't even have a carousel. He just started carving these animals. And they're not your typical carousel animals. Like they're so unique and they have just so many little details on them. Like there'll be an elk with like all these little birds on his
Oh
antlers, or
my
like a
gosh.
rabbit has like a watch in his palm and all these other little things. Anyway, so those were carved here in our house
Oh
in
wow.
in the garage, which the studio is over, the rental studio. Um, and so after he had all these animals carved, then the town had a fundraiser to buy a carousel mechanism. And we procured one from another state. It's like a 19, I don't know, 10 or 20 something really old carousel that has the little, I forget what you call it, the little music,
Yeah, like a
box.
yeah, I don't know what you call it either, but yeah, like a calliope
Escape
or
mind.
something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so and then we built a building for it in town. It's right in town where the grocery store and we have one sort of just main shopping area, so it's in there. And that's also a destination. A lot of people come. It's so fun. We go there. We take all our guests there to
It
ride the thing.
sounds
So that,
amazing that he would carve all these animals like that and then get to
yeah.
see his vision, become reality.
Hmm.
That is
Yeah,
amazing.
and I feel, we feel so guilty now, but years ago when they were having the fundraiser for it, my husband and I, we lived elsewhere in town, not here in this house. But we didn't know about it. We didn't know what it was
Yeah.
about, whatever. And it's like fundraiser for Carousel of Happiness. And we're like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah,
what?
like what's that, right?
Like that's so stupid. Why are we raising money for a
Yeah,
carousel of all things?
right.
And then when it was up and running, we're like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing. Like, how could we ever be against this? I mean, we weren't against it. We were just
No, I
like,
understand. It's like you don't
this
understand, you don't know all the story of it, right?
the story, and we didn't know how cool the animals were. I mean, they're just so fun and whimsical and totally different, and some of them move and some of them don't. And I mean, you just have to see it. I can't even really explain it, but so I recommend that to anybody who comes through Netherlands. Um, so anyway, that guy built this house that we bought from him. So it's very, very custom built. I imagine he never thought he would move from it or something. I don't know. So like
Right.
this mother-in-law space, like I say, was for her, and she just needed, you know, anyway, built around her needs. We have a climbing wall in the house, which is weird because we're not climbers, but his sons were. So he built a climbing wall for them in the house.
That's actually
And like
kind of cool, but you're right. Like who would think
everyone
of that?
asks when they come over, they're like, "Oh, you guys are climbers." We're like, "Nope, we just have a climbing wall." And, his daughter was like a dancer, so like the space my husband uses as an office, the whole wall is mirrors,
Oh,
so
right, right.
ballet studio and whatever. Anyway, so he's very and it's a very like creative space. The house itself is like really cool. Um, so he was a good like envisioner and a good designer, but he lacked a lot of details in construction, like, things properly fitting together,
Oh, yeah.
insulation and certain spots and wiring that makes sense, stuff like that. So it's, it's creaky and a little bit quirky and whatever, but it kind of adds to the like treehouse feel of it.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah. It's a
But a
creative
lot of people do
space.
appreciate knowing just that history that the animals were carved here in the house and whatever.
Well, and I love the idea that the windows, like you said, when you're in that space to
Hmm.
stay, you feel like you're in the trees. I mean, for people visiting from cities, that's just
Yeah.
a totally different environment and a nice
Yeah.
getaway.
Yeah. I think people really do like that. And we had trees that were originally closer to the house. So then it really felt like you're in a tree house, but they actually were becoming a problem being so close to the house. So we had to cut those down. But it's still really close. I would show you on my laptop, but it's really futzy and the battery doesn't work, so I can't unplug
No,
it.
that's okay. That's all right.
Otherwise, I'd walk around and be like, here,
No,
here's
no,
what.
no, that's okay. I totally get that. My laptop, it has to sit at a certain angle for it to stay powered, and I don't know.
Yeah,
And it's like I'm kind of frugal when it comes to things like that. It's like, you know what? It works. I just can't move it. It has to
exactly.
stay where it's
That's
at.
exactly the same with me. That's why I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get ready for this interview, but it's going to take me, I have to so carefully, gingerly keep the plug in at just the right angle. I'm carrying it like a little baby to
Right.
like move it to the right spot. Yeah. it's here now for a while.
So what do you think about this fall? Do you think you guys, I haven't looked at the fall foliage predictions for Colorado to say if they're, because I know for several years now the Rocky Mountains has battled with that darn beetle that's just been eating all the trees, which is really sad.
So I don't know. Well, the pine beetle, the pine trees, not the aspens, but it does affect just the look of the forest when you have all these dead trees in the middle of the
Right.
forest. Summit County, which is where most of the ski areas are, that like the big ski areas, Vail and Breckenridge and that, in Grand County, which is where like Steamboat is, they suffer it a lot more than the area right around me. Um, and the aspens, some of them also had a blight. So I'm not sure the health of them everywhere. I don't know, to be honest, what the aspens are going to be like this year because I don't know what all goes into what affects the richness of their color. I think some of it's moisture related, some of I don't really know. And
Yeah.
it's been a weird year this year because we had a very wet winter. Like we had a 4.5 foot
Oh,
snowstorm where everybody was marooned for days. And then
wow.
we had several other sizable snowstorms with intense wind that then built up like huge cemented snow drifts. And, so we had a lot of spring melt. The rivers were all really full, which made for great waterfalls around here. But then we've had a very dry summer and so this is another year I've had my fire bags packed at the door. And the wildflowers, unfortunately, if you're not from here and you don't normally come up here, like I see people oh, the wildflowers are amazing. They're so, and I
Right.
want to burst their bubble and say, well, actually, this is a pretty lame year
Right.
because
Yeah. Right.
I'm
Yeah,
not
you
used to
don't.
it.
I totally know what you mean. Yeah, you don't want to tell.
Right?
It's like,
So it's all relative, but it has honestly been a pretty lame year for most of the
oh,
wildflowers, except that Columbine field that I found. And they're still out, like I say, it's all relative. But that being the case, and now we've gotten quite a bit of rain the last week, and it's supposed to rain into this coming week. And I don't know when the moisture starts affecting the aspens, if they needed to have moisture all summer. And there's been years also where I think it has been wet and it has been what I would presume would be a nice climate for them. And then they turn brown and crispy and just kind of fall off. Like last year wasn't that great. I
yeah.
thought it would have been great because we had a really wet summer. So I don't know. I don't
I
really know
know.
what
Right.
causes the colors. So I know that there are such things as like tree predictions. I don't know how accurate they are, and I don't know what they base them on. I personally can't predict
No,
what
I
they're.
know. Yeah, exactly. But it is interesting, like you said, where certain years when you think it might be not
Yeah.
so good, then it's like they're amazing. I mean, I've seen it in New England too. It's like they get all this rain, and it's like you're worried that it's like too wet and they're not going to have good leaves, and then
Mhm.
it's amazing. So it's really difficult to know, but
Yeah.
some years are definitely better than others. It's just hard to outguess.
Yeah, I don't, and even the wild, like everyone was presuming that we'd have a great wildflower
Yeah.
season because of that huge amount of late snow that we had. But I guess they need moisture closer to their blooming time or something. I don't really know. I don't know. But honestly, I guess that's another thing that's kind of fun is that it's the unexpectedness. Not every year is going to be great, but it's also a little mystery, a little surprise every year. You don't know what you're going to get. You
Yeah, that's true. That makes it
or the
all more.
colors. Like last year, so one of the closest places that I go to with four-wheel drive vehicles. Last year, the red paintbrush was just like an ocean of paintbrush. I mean, the hillsides were just covered in red.
Wow.
This year, there's hardly any, but the purple lupines are out. They're like an ocean. So now this year, it's an ocean of purple
Oh,
on the
wow.
hillsides. And I don't know what makes the difference, why one or the other, but it's kind of cool. Even though I went up thinking, oh, I gotta see all the paintbrush, and then oh, there's no paintbrush. But look at all those pines.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
that keeps it really busy. So, last question, what are you doing with your photos? Are you showing them somewhere where people can see them? Or is there an online gallery you can send people to? What do you got?
so I do usually show a little bit just around locally. So like this year, next month in September, I'll have my work up at one of the breweries
Oh,
in town,
nice. Oh,
uh,
good.
BC Brews. And then in October, I'll be down in Boulder. It sounds weird, but the rec center um, system, whatever, they have a thing of rotating artists at their two rec centers, which is cool. And I actually make a lot of sales there
Oh,
because,
nice.
they have all these huge walls, like ramps and hallways going to their various workout rooms and blah, blah, blah. So it's a great place. So anyway, yeah, artists rotate. So I usually have a spot there for a month every year. Um, and then I used to show a lot more, but I haven't much lately. But I will have those two shows this year. And I do have a website, skjphotography.net. I don't have like an automatic, put this in your cart and buy it, largely because photo prints, a lot of them are custom size. Like I can't really say an 8 by
Yeah,
10
right.
this photo costs much because I may not have an 8 by 10 size. It might be 9 by 14 or something
Right,
weird.
right. Yeah,
But
exactly.
people can always contact me and say, hey, I'm interested in this print. And we can talk about sizes or cropping it different if you want to crop differently to fit into a standard size frame or something like that. So yeah, anyway, mostly I just enjoy them myself on my computer. Like I come, especially like wildflowers, if I come back from that because I don't put my macro on a tripod, like that's just too much hassle. I hand hold it, but I don't have very steady hands. So I usually have to fire off like five or six and hope that one of them comes out really steady. So, but then I have to come home,
I
put them on
know.
the computer and go through them and look for the most crisp one, which can take a long time. However, it's also enjoyable. Like I go home and I hang out with the flowers all over again or the
Yeah,
animals all over
exactly.
again. So like I say, even if I never printed one or I never sold one, I think I would still enjoy photography just as much. But yeah, I do have them for sale and I do show them here and there.
No, I love that, Shara. And that's what I love about photography. I think it's something that people can take with them throughout their life. Once they pick up a
Mhm.
camera, it's like you can find things outside your home. You don't have to,
Yeah,
it's just a beautiful thing that you can do. And then when you do hit the winter months, that's a great time
yeah,
to pull out the wildflower photos and have a cup
it
of
is
coffee and just go through them, to kind of
totally
bring back those memories.
right. Because I'm so busy in the summer actually taking the photos that winter honestly is when I find the most time to go through them. Or, like animal photos or, like those digital I don't have one myself, but those digital frames, that you can like cycle through the photos. Like I gave one of those to my mom with, she and I went on safari together in Africa.
Oh,
I loaded up one of those with a bunch of pictures that we took from that trip. And,
oh,
some people
fabulous.
can do that. And it's actually, I think it makes it a bit harder to make sales now because people do everybody has so much more capability at their hands. I mean, I know a lot of these. I just have a totally lame old school phone. It takes pictures that are fine to put online on the internet, but
Right.
they wouldn't well. But I know there are phones that would print out, like just fine. So people have a lot more power themselves, which is great for them. It does make it a little harder to sell prints, but somehow I manage still.
Yay! I know, that's great.
And my mother-in-law, as I said, she was my husband's whole family was artistic, and she was like basically a professional artist. Like she actually could make a
Wow.
living, and she did all different mediums. But she's passed away now, but she had a framing studio in her house, and bless her heart, she gave me so many free materials,
Oh, wow,
and
yeah.
so that really got me started to like got me off the ground to like start showing things is I didn't have to invest the capital that a lot of people have to invest
It's so
in the
true.
frames and Yeah, and glad because I know it costs a lot to have somebody else frame your photos. So I could cut my own glass. I could, or technically my husband did that for me, which is very sporting. And he would cut my mats, and she would give me the pretty much all I bought was my frames. But yeah, so that's another. So she passed away 2 years ago. And then my father-in-law is selling the house. So now I don't have that nice thing. So I'm still surviving now on, on actually frames and glass and mats that I had stored up or that I got from our studio, when we were cleaning everything out, or I'm reusing frames from pictures that haven't sold in years. I'm like, well, I'll put something new in there. But at some point, that's probably going to cut into my
Yeah.
ability or willingness to keep showing, right? And unless I start making like tons of sales, just because that capital is a little prohibitive.
Yeah, and it is actually, I tell people a lot. It's when you have to have someone else do the framing, the frames and the glass are what's really expensive. So
It
do it,
is.
I always suggest, if you can do it yourself or watch for, I don't know if Aaron Brothers, which I don't even know if they're actually still in business. It might be just Michael's now. Wait till
Mm,
they have stuff on sale, like watch for the
yes.
sales and then, or garage sales or Facebook.
Yeah, I do
Facebook
get things. Hmm.
yeah, like Facebook Marketplace. Sometimes, a lot of times when people are moving, having all that frame
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
they get rid of it. So, even if it has a different picture, flip it over, look at the back, see if you can't take it out. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
use
another
the
source.
mat or just like you say, the glass and so a lot of people sometimes will ask me, well, can you negotiate on the price? And I'm usually like, not really, because I'm already pricing them at what I think is the minimum of the profit I can make. And it's based on the framing. So I think most people don't realize actually how expensive it is to frame them. And I have to base it, even though I get a discount. So maybe that's part of the reason I've done pretty well on sales is because I think I am priced lower than a lot of people. But I still have to presume that if I have to reframe that photo, I would have
Yeah.
to buy the materials myself. So I have to price it based on that. But yes, sales like Hobby Lobby also has they have 50% off stuff like all the time. Um, so yeah, like you say, look out for those things. Our community has a huge garage sale every spring where everybody could bring their stuff in. And it's at the community center. And I mean, people bring everything, furniture, clothes, tools, books. So, I mean, just everything. And I get frames from there a lot of times. People have frames and they have um so the first 2 days, everything is, and it's a fundraiser for Mountain Forum for Peace.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 2 days you pay whatever the price tag is. And then that's Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, the first part of the day, everything is half off. And then for 1 hour at the end of the day, everything's free.
Oh,
Anything that's
wow.
left. Everything, whether it's a couch, whether it's a frame, whether it's a whatever. So like there'll be a line,
Oh, I
waiting
bet. Yeah, just waiting, right.
to get in for that. So, and if it's a nice frame, I'll just pay what they're asking, which is still dirt cheap. But sometimes I've gotten like, yeah, free frames or that, or even if I don't like the frame, the glass or the matting, all of that stuff can be of value. So yeah, anyone out there looking to frame their prints, that's a good idea to look for things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this has been a great conversation, Shara. So tell people again where they can find your website and your amazing cozy lodging.
Using quite a bit. So I have, well, kind of my main website is my travel blog, actually, which is SKJ, it's my initials, skjtravel.net. And then it's usually from that site that I scrape photos to put on my photography site, which is skjphotography.net. And then my Airbnb, I think if you just search Airbnb in Netherlands for cozy and quiet,
You'll
it will
pop
come
up.
up. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so
And
much.
I don't know if Google, because I also have a page on Facebook for it that I post. A lot of times I post the game cam photos and stuff. So I don't know,
Oh,
maybe even a Google search
oh yeah,
on
yeah.
cozy and quiet. in Netherlands would bring that up. I don't know, but
And what's your
anyway,
Facebook what's your Facebook page so people can check out the game cam? That's cool.
it's just well, I think Cozy and Quiet in Netherland, which is
Okay,
Nedrland. I think that's the name of it. Cozy and Quiet
cool.
in Netherland. Yeah.
Bet it is. Thank you so much. This was fabulous.
Yeah. Thanks for wanting to learn about Colorado.